examples are still on the screen for us.
Hello, welcome back to the Lille Regional Championships. I'm Freya Pierce. I am once again rejoined by the wonderful Ross Gilbert. How are you doing, Ross?
I'm doing very well. I've had a bit of a time off. I've had a wander around. I've seen what's being played. I've seen what's good. And I'm going to be honest with you, Freya. It's been an awful lot of, oh yeah, I was expecting that. There were a few players I was tracking. There was an Arceus Metal sitting at 4-0, and then it lost and went to 4-0-1.
No.
There was a Hisuian Zoroark at 2-0-1 or 3-0-1, lost. So there's interesting decks out there, and I think we might see some of them sneaking into the bottom half of day 2, but I don't think they're really running around the top tables as it stands at the moment. It's the way it is. We're seeing a tournament which is evolving to be, oh look, that's the meta we were expecting.
Yeah, and that's kind of, I mean, that does happen, you know, sometimes it just that you, because sometimes these evolutions happen over time and we, you know, see that, oh, actually things were this way at the beginning, but now things have changed. But it seems like this meta game compared to how it was at Salt Lake and Peoria is kind of more like maintaining somewhat, it was safe to say.
Yeah, Regis are not really making much of a jump at all. Regis, I'm seeing very little. Like, looking at the top tables, Regis just not there. Mew is weird. Mew is not also showing up too much at the top tables. Lots of Palkia, lots of Arceus, lots of Lost Zone. That's kind of what we're seeing. Obviously, there's some Goodra out there. Arceus is back.
Yes.
Like, Arceus, that is the one thing that... And even saying it's back, because we've seen Arceus with Flying Pikachu in the final of a regionals this season. We've seen, obviously, it winning with Goodra. But Arceus really is everywhere, and Arceus is kind of... It is rocking all over the place. It's a good card, if that's not too derivative.
I mean, I guess we kind of already knew that, really, didn't we, deep down? I mean, it did literally just win the last regional as well. So, you know, it was never a bad card, but it's very evident to see that is not changing anytime soon. No,
I think Arceus might be here to stay. It's going to, for as long as we've got Pokemon V, I think Arceus is probably going to end up being a very, very good card indeed. And, you know, Tord sitting there at 5-0, I believe, won the last round. So Tord is just rocking ahead. It's still very much the person to beat, although we saw Rowan Caraman having a good run, also going to 4-0 on the stream, and that was another, you know, good player, good deck, #1 by championship points, at least coming into this regional today in the world. So I think there are some really interesting things going on. There are some real players that are putting themselves out there. But then again, there are a bunch of players at 5-0 who are... they're not necessarily names that everyone would recognize. People like Alessandro Brax, people like Arthur Trucha, and I'm probably pronouncing the names horribly for that, I can only apologize. These are names that weren't really on my radar as players to watch coming in, but they've come in and they've gone to a 5-0 record, and I love this.
Well, of course, I mean, this is part of the whole story, right? Sure, we have these, you know, old names that are established and have been successful so many times before, continue to have lots of success, but anyone can come in and with the right deck and the right level of skill and right training and practice, make it to the top tables as well, and we're seeing that play out here.
And there's an interesting thing, of course, with so long off of tournaments over COVID, we had an interesting thing where a lot of players started playing online, and a lot of players that weren't necessarily seriously competitive players took that opportunity to start playing online. And I'm wondering if we've got some players here who really kind of started honing their skills online while the tournaments weren't really happening, and now that we've got these regionals back, they're going, oh, hi, yeah, I'm actually a top player too.
Yeah, go figure. So we actually have a couple of things that we'd like to show you. First of all, I think we have like to show the top 22 race, as it were. So we know for a fact that obviously there's plenty of people looking to make their way into that top 22 in Europe. If you finish the season of Pokemon in the top 22, you of course get to skip the first day of play for the World Championships. We're talking about, of course, the road to Yokohama here. So that's a very, very big deal. It means that you are sort of more likely to get further into the tournament because you get to skip a whole day of play. And you also get your travel and accommodation covered.
Yeah, that's pretty huge because Yokohama is it's quite far away, to be honest with you. It's an important thing. Of course, we've got travel stipends that players can earn towards the next international championship, which, you know, make those far more available to those players who can get them. So finishing up, getting those championship points, it is a big deal, ending up high in them. And of course, you know, there's probably a lot of players out there at the moment who aren't so familiar with how tournaments work. And essentially, you go along to tournaments, and the bigger the tournament, the more points you can get. The higher you finish in a tournament, the more points you get. Now, we're at a regional championships here. We basically, after Worlds, we've got international championships, and then we've got regionals. So you're not going to get as many points at an internationals as you would at a regionals, but there are still an awful lot of points on offer. It's why we see these tournaments, you know, the reservations for Lille this weekend were full. There were no more spaces available.
It's completely sold out.
And we're seeing that in tournaments all over, because if you want to get a lot of points to try and get yourself those stipend for international championships, trying to get that day 2 invite for Yokohama, well, actually, if you can get a couple of good regional results, you are going to be a large part of the way there. So a lot of championship points on offer. And that's essentially it. You come along to tournaments, you earn championship points. There is a certain limit, depending on what age group you're in and what region you're in, where you can earn a day 1 invite. And it is the top X number of players, I think 22 in Europe, 16 in North America, who then get the day 2 invite.
Yes, exactly. And with, of course, for a lot of players, the road being to Yokohama specifically, it's more important than ever, right? It's you know, it's a very long way to go, and so if you can, you know, make your way there that way, then obviously that's a huge incentive to do well and chase that day 2 invite.
Yeah, a lot of people were very excited when we found out where Worlds was going to be in 2023. Yes. Yeah, the reaction in the room was quite something to behold. Yeah. So
I wasn't there in person, but you were, of course. I'm sure you were. I mean, you could. How would you describe sort of like the atmosphere in the room when that announcement was made?
It was kind of, there was initial like, no, oh no, come on, they're trolling us, and then there was that realization in the room that, hang on a second, they're actually serious. We're yeah, that's actually happening, and it's just. It's just huge. It's the dream of basically every Pokemon player to go and play and compete, and it's going to be an absolutely wonderful. It's going to be a wonderful time, but it's a long road to get there. It's going to be a long time until we get there.
Yeah. It's so that is. So it looks like we're not quite ready to show the top 22 racer yet, unfortunately. So we'll have to get back to that in a little bit. But we still, you know, we get an idea of like why the top 22 chase is so important, and we've already discussed some of the names, you know. Are in the chase for that top 22.
Yeah, top 22 is very, very important, and just getting that Worlds invite, because if you get a Worlds invite, you're there. Yeah. And that's important. I mean, we've seen plenty of players go through day 1 of Worlds and take down the whole thing, and obviously day 2 is easier because you're basically skipping an entire tournament pretty much. I mean, you're talking about a big tournament where you have to go through 6 and 2 or better. It takes a lot, quite frankly. So. Yeah.
Yes. So
it is a lot to actually get all the way there. But it does look like we are getting our next game going here, just trying to confirm who the players are in this particular round. But we've got, like we say, we've got some 5-0 players here, and going 5-0 at a regional, you have to have a good run. It's a mixture of good deck, good play, and let's face it, probably a little bit of luck.
Yeah. That's how all tournaments go, right? That's like always the combination of factors that you need to win on any given day, but you know, no one gets to 5-0 in a tournament without at least like some level of like skill behind them, right? Because I think a lot of people sometimes say, oh, it's always just like pure luck, and that's obviously not the case. But for these 2 players here, well, they're here on the stream right now. They are started off, and it looks like we will see the Pyukumuku against the Palkia V.
Am I seeing parts of Mewtwo v Union in that hand? I think I'm seeing... There's Mewtwo v Union!
Oh, my goodness. Okay.
And what a start. Ultra Ball 2 parts. Now, for those of you that have forgotten about v Union, it's a 4-part card. And what you need to do is discard all 4 parts get them in the discard pile, and then you can basically just play all 4 parts onto the bench as one complete Pokemon. This is wonderful.
Yes, so this is... James Cox against Alessandro Bax for this round. As you can see the ticker down there, they are 2 of the 5-0 players. And again, 2 players that I would say not as like well known, not as the sort of name when you think, oh, who'd be the 5-0 at a tournament, any given tournament. Probably not 2 names you'd be thinking of.
No, I think James Cox is a little bit known in the UK. Had a few results here. Somebody that a lot of the players will know. But this is what I like. We've got 2 of the players who I think it's fair to say were not necessarily the top choices going in. And then we've got Mewtwo v Union. And this isn't a new deck, but it wasn't one people were taking really seriously coming into this event, but it's sitting there at 5-0, and I'll tell you what, starting off turn 1, getting 2 parts of the V-Union in the discard with an Ultra Ball, grabbing a Snorlax, getting ready to Gormandize, this is just great.
Yes, it is. Also, slight correction, not Alessandro back, it's actually Alessandro Frenda who's be playing against James Cox in this round.
So we got 2 Alessandro at 5-0.
One's at 401 specifically. So
okay.
So, yeah.
Alessandro is the name to have in this tournament.
Yeah, it does seem that way, doesn't it? So going for the trekking shoes here, it looks like it's going to be discard a Galar Mine and then draw the next card. And here's a card that is one we've seen loads before, but first time seeing it this tournament, it is, of course, that Snorlax from Vivid Voltage.
Yeah, I love him. I love that Snorlax. Gormandize, great ability. Lets you draw until you've got 7 cards in your hand, but it ends your turn. Nice, beefy Pokemon. And James isn't going to be afraid to give up a few prizes in the early game here. That is not going to be a particular problem. It is all about getting that Mewtwo set up. When that Mewtwo sets up, especially against a deck like Palkia, you're not getting KO'd. Now, we do need to... now it is the Kyurem list. Now, this changes a lot of things.
Yes.
Because Kyurem VMAX, I mean, it'll take a few energy, but you can KO Mewtwo.
Yes, so Alessandro there on the left is indeed playing Kyurem VMAX, and one of the few things that can KO Mewtwo V-Union very easily. We saw for the longest time, one of the big reasons why Mewtwo V-Union was so popular and so successful is that the Palkia Inteleon deck cannot knock it out in one hit. Like you just said, that is not the case for this version of the list.
No, and we're not talking like a little tech Kyurem. We've got a 2-2 line of Palkia V-Star and a free Kyurem line. So
this is the focus.
Yeah, Alessandro's not messing around here. We are going full Kyurem. So this is a really big deal, quite frankly. This is going to make it a lot harder for James as we go through this game. It's going to be a little bit rough because the problem is you don't mind going down a few prizes. You get the Mewtwo set up, you can't get KO'd, and then you're like, yay, I'm going to win. Unfortunately, if you can get one hit KO'd by Kyurem, that does change things. This is going to be a bad matchup for James. The good news is there's no Mewtwo parts in the prizes. Yeah. And also worth noting, you've still got like Yellhorn to play around with Confusion. It is not over just because Alessandro is playing Kyurem.
Yeah, absolutely not. Also, I think there must have been a slight mix-up of the names because when we first saw names, we thought we were referring to someone else. But James Cox, of course, literally finished 4th in the World Championships earlier this year. So he's absolutely someone who should be in contention for being 5-0 at this tournament.
Absolutely, yeah. That's not bad.
No, not at all.
4-0 finish is not bad at all. Our apologies to James if it seemed like we underrated the skill there. James is a phenomenal player.
Yes.
And look, you're sitting at 5-0 in a big regional like this. This is fantastic.
Yes. And so, although James not looking like best pleased with something that was going on, perhaps a little bit, not really that happy with like the start that they had. But Alessandro, on the other hand, grabbing a Crobat V. And then looking for, it looks like grabbing off a Battle VIP pass, going for is that an Arctivish? No, I was going to say it's a Kyurem V.
It's a Kyurem V. Like, Arctivish would be a real turn up
like
here.
The head shape for a second got me really confused. I was like, hold on, what's going on?
No, we're going Alessandro here. Alessandro is doing everything we were expecting. This is very good. We've got the Kyurem out. We've got the Palkia out with an energy and a choice band. A choice belt, sorry. We've got ourselves drawing some cards with concealed cards with Greninja. Alessandro's had a really good start here. James wanted to get that Snorlax into the active, wanted to go and Gormandize, and unfortunately wasn't able to do so, and that is a little bit of a pain.
Yeah, so Alessandro going in with the Rule the Region to kind of start things off. Of course, not really the attack you want to be going for a lot of the time, but just being able to search deck for any stadium card, it's a solid option.
Yeah, it's fine. It's not really what you ever want to be doing. If you're using that, then something's gone a little bit wrong. But it just means you've not had a very fast start.
Yes.
But certainly not too bad. Now, we do see James here is going to be searching through his prizes, seeing, what it is he actually wants to pick up. Obviously, that Yellhorn for Confusion can be big. It's going to be awkward because James has got to try and navigate around that Kyurem. So one option here is just try and confuse it continually.
Yeah. So this is actually from Pioneer. So
yes.
James picked 3 cards in the prizes and is trying to decide now which cards that he wants to put back. Maybe in some instances just putting back the cards that he just got. But I think I'm not sure if he hit anything in those cards that was insanely useful to him from what I could see. So it looks like a Team Yalchir, another Pioneer, and I missed the last card going back into the prizes there.
Yeah, it's all right. It's not exactly what you were looking for, but I mean, we do see a crushing hammer here. I've no idea how that came out. It looks like it was a tails,
yes,
unfortunately.
That's a shame. Reggie Lecky, though, going to be benched as well. Of course, this is a card that usually sees plays in the Reggie deck, but it does see play in here as well, just like as a means of getting back trainers, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah, not too bad in that regard. We do see the Palkia V-Star coming down here. And honestly, for Alessandro here, a large part of this is just going to be take the prizes where you can. Just chip away, make sure you got Kyurem. Basically, try and build up a big Kyurem. Because James got rid of a couple parts of Mewtwo, right?
Yes.
So there's no ifs, buts, or maybes here. We know what he's playing.
Yeah,
it's been given away.
Yes.
And we all know how Mewtwo the Union works at this stage. So the deal is very simple. Take cheeky prizes, easy prizes where you can, but have an answer for when Mewtwo comes out on the board. And if you can build up a big Kyurem, that could be the answer you need.
And a Irida coming in there from Alessandro's side. And gonna grab that Kyurem VMAX straight away, and gonna be able to grab an item as well. So definitely gonna be able to take a knockout this turn, but of course it's a matter of how you try to navigate this matchup in particular, because it's a very different kind of deck, right? You're not just up against something that has like a more regular game plan. You're against a deck which is trying to slowly build up towards this Mewtwo V Union and then just sweep through at the end. And when that time comes, Alessandro needs to make sure that he has the means to get the one-hit knockout on that Mewtwo V Union with his Kyurem. That's going to be the vital thing here. Yeah,
that is absolutely got to be the play. We do see a Ultra Ball coming down here, getting rid of a Palkia and another card, and just setting up the board really nicely here. It is an Oranguru, little bit of extra draw, but it's not just extra draw, because of course we know that Kyurem's ability lets you attach the top card of your deck if it is a water energy. So Oranguru lets you put a water energy on top of your deck, and then Kyurem lets you attach it. So rather than just looking at the top card of your deck and crossing your fingers, it's kind of guaranteeing you get that extra energy attachment. I love it.
Yes. And that's exactly the power of that combo. So the Kyurem V evolving into the Kyurem VMAX, there does go down that Oranguru, as just mentioned, and going to be able to use that to put, I can only assume, a water energy on top of the deck, I think.
Yeah, if you've got a water energy in hand, you are definitely put a water energy on top of your deck.
Yeah. Oh, actually, maybe not, because Glaciated World was not used there, interestingly enough.
Well, I just assume you didn't have a water energy
then.
Oh,
yeah.
And here we go with the Yell Horn. This is, and then a double flip with Silent does get it one heads at least. And I love the Yell Horn inclusion here, because essentially it can fix any matchup. If you've got a bad matchup, just constantly confuse your opponent. Snorlax is sitting there drawing cards. Snorlax does not care if it's confused or not.
No.
The goal here is just slow down your opponent, make them whiff a couple of attacks, make them do a little bit of self-damage. And certainly when you get down to something like Kyurem, if you can stick it in the active, make it confused, and it whiffs a couple of times, you can KO it with Mewtwo.
Yeah, absolutely you can. And I'm sure that's, that's the point we want to get to. So with that in mind, Alessandro kind of needs to retreat now, and because, as you mentioned, with the sort of disruption with confusion, if Alessandro doesn't have an easy way to switch out this Palkia, then there has to be maybe a retreat to discard, and then that's more disruption and more almost like self disruption even that's happening.
Yeah, there's basically there's only so many times you can just continually get out of confusion.
Yes.
Now the good news is Alessandro does have a V-Star power that accelerates energy, and you've got Shauna, and you've got Melanie, and you've got Kyurem. So certainly in the short term you'll be able to get that energy. The question is, are you going to be able to keep doing it all game? Now, we do see Empoleon going active.
Hello.
I love this play. We're getting the energy onto Empoleon using Palkia's V-Star power. And now, not only are you getting a KO here, but you're also, I think he's getting a KO, but you are turning off abilities of Pokemon that don't have a rule box, like Snorlax.
Exactly.
And James is really relying on Snorlax right now.
Yeah, and that is absolutely huge, as Alessandro does indeed attack with the Empoleon. Of course, has to move an energy to the back, ends up moving it to the Kyurem V Max. But yeah, James cannot Gourmandize again now. So, he can bench all the ones that he wants, but that's not really going to help him, as we see a Crushing Hammer go. That is a heads, so going to be able to discard one energy, but James going to think carefully about where the best choice to discard that energy is.
It's so awkward. Like, my instinct is get it off the Kyurem, because you don't want that Kyurem built up big. But then again, there's only so long you can sit and let the Empoleon just kind of get free hits against you. But it is against the Kyurem. That would have been my personal choice, so I'm cool with that.
Yeah, because I think the main thing is, obviously, the Empoleon continuously attacking you hurts, but it's the Kyurem is the thing that is going to hurt you the most in terms of preventing you from achieving a win condition, because the Kyurem is the thing that can actually take out your Mewtwo V Union. So makes sense to focus down on it. Actually brings it up as well, so just get the opponent out of the way so that the non-rule box abilities are turned on again. And after playing a bunch of cards, probably going to Gormandize.
Yeah, also played a Gala Mine, which is going to increase the retreat cost there of that Kyurem, which is not a good idea. Well, not a good thing for Alessandro. So essentially, James is saying, look, I think I can stick this in the active. And maybe with a couple of Yellhorn, few Crushing Hammer, get rid of some of the energy, basically buy enough time to be able to take it out. Mewtwo can deal decent damage.
Yes, very much so. And looks like Scoop Up Net being played just to get out the hand to draw more with the Gormandize, and the Gormandize itself following up after that. Alessandro, yeah, needs to find a counter stadium or some way to switch out, because this Kyurem in the active right now is not doing much of anything.
No, not much at all. So I love this from James. He's getting that Gormandize, drawing a bunch of extra cards. It's a really weird deck to play Mewtwo, because basically what you're doing is trying to just set up an end game. And it's almost like you're kind of just trying to work around what your opponent's doing to set up your end game. And if you can do that, you're golden, you're going to win. And the whole time your opponent is just trying to kind of rush you and try and set up an answer for Mewtwo. But there are so many, James is 5-0 here. There are so many decks that when set up, don't have an answer.
No, absolutely not. And that's it's just unfortunate in that sort of sense that, James is up against one of the few decks that maybe actually can have an answer in this instance. But even then, Alessandro's still struggling a bit, you can see.
Yeah, Alessandro is one of those situations where Alessandro is actually building up a really impressive board. Lots of Pokemon, lots of energy, but taking a couple little KOs and nothing more substantial than that.
Yeah.
But it's going to come down to the Mewtwo. Either James doesn't get it out and Alessandro just wins easily. James does get it out and blocks and wins, or James gets it out and there's a big Kyurem KO. And it's, they're basically the three endings to this game. James is not going to rush and win against Alessandro. Mewtwo doesn't do that. So it's just a case of, can I get my Mewtwo up and can I keep it there for long enough to just wall my opponent and basically run them out of resources?
And that's exactly how this deck wins a lot of its games. Is that's the whole game plan. So, and we do see that sort of playing out here to some extent. I mean, the one saving grace for Alessandro, of course, is that this is the kind of deck that can get a lot of those resources back. Sure, we saw that the Alessandro had to retreat the Palkia and got rid of energy that way, but there's so much energy has been re-established already.
Absolutely, it's always nice having all that energy on the board ready to roll. It's a good thing.
Yeah, it is.
I like it.
I'm sure Alessandro does as well. Silene?
Is that? Oh, okay, that is a Silene.
Yes.
Yeah. Trying to go and search some cards. Did not work then, unfortunately. But we do have an Ultra Ball coming down here. We've got a Morpeko coming down. That's a card which saw no play until Mewtwo players decided, you know what? That little Morpeko, that could be fun.
Yes.
We've got a Chinchou coming down here.
Oh, my goodness.
That's going to evolve into a Lantern, and that Lantern, I'm assuming we're talking a Lantern that can get a bunch of cards back, which is kind of adorable. And
yes.
I am loving it. It's really fun.
Yes, of course, so with that Torment attack, you can just choose one of your opponent's active Pokemon's attacks, and then they just can't use it. So, say if it's like a one attacking thing, like Kyurem VMAX, all of a sudden you can't really do much with it.
Yeah, maybe Morpeko can just torment the Kyurem, poking away with 20 damage a turn until Kyurem just folds. That could be fun.
It could be. It could also be the way to go. But for now, in any case, we do see a Speed Lightning Energy going on to. There's a little bit off screen. Can't see if it went on to the Morpeko or to the Chinchou. I think it was on the Chinchou. And there's. Just playing a quick ball as well, so yeah, getting another basic out the deck. It looks to be like a Radiant Greninja. Again, it's slightly off screen there, can't quite see it, but it looks like a Radiant Greninja. And then the Gormandize once more time.
Yeah, that is always good. That Gormandize is brilliant. It's like, hey, I'm just going to get a whole bunch of extra cards. It's kind of wonderful, quite frankly. So that's always a fun thing. That Chinchou, I should mention, that doesn't evolve. I can't see any Lantern in the deck list here. It's just a Chinchou, which is it's an interesting one. I'm going to be honest with you. It's not a card I was expecting to see. We obviously saw, his opponent went for it, and it's just single lightning energy, and it just lets you switch your opponent's bench Pokemon with their active. So basically, it's kind of like an attack that gusts. It's a weird one, but you're trying to strand your opponent's Pokemon in the active, so I don't know, why not?
Yes, I mean, in some instances, if you can just keep doing that over and over again as part of this disruption strategy that we've already mentioned, it's kind of all you really need, right? It's we've seen it employed in a few other decks. I remember ages ago there was like a Carnivine that did the same thing.
Was indeed.
And it's the exact same sort of mindset. It's, okay, I'm going to bring up stuff that's awkward for you, and eventually you won't be able to do anything about it.
So we do see an Irida coming down here. It's getting an Escape Rope and an Empoleon. Although I don't think the Empoleon's going to do much good at this stage. That seems more like deck thinning than anything else. But there is an Escape Rope here which can force James to put a new Pokemon active. And
yes.
James has got an interesting choice here. That Jinjiao looks kind of interesting. You've got Radiant Greninja, which is good for draw. Morpeko and Torment, I don't think you can afford to get rid of. So, yeah, I think it has to be Regieleki. You're basically saying, you know, what prize am I giving up here? I think Regieleki's got to be the choice because both Morpeko and Chinchou, as weird as they are actually kind of potentially really relevant.
Yeah, they really are. And I mean, Regieleki is of course also relevant. Being able to get back trainers is something that you know, Alessandro really doesn't want to happen. But all the same, the Empoleon attack has now gone off, and it's going to be back on James to try and think of what the direction is best to go in next. The Chinchou could come up right now and maybe bring up the Oranguru. It does have a tree cost of 2. We're very awkward to get out of the way. Could maybe also just bring up the Morpeko and start attacking. There's a few different options that James could go for here, but it looks like Chinchou is the one that gets picked in this instance.
This is a very interesting weird deck. Of course, we see James with those speed lightning energy, attaching them, and then you attach them to a lightning energy, you get a lightning Pokemon, you get to draw 2 cards at the same time. That is wonderful. And then we are discarding a psychic energy with Greninja, concealing those cards, getting a couple of extra cards out.
Yes.
This is such a weird game for James, because James is basically rocking along going, you know what, I'm kind of cool with this. I'm all right just chilling for a minute. Because sooner or later, I'm hopefully going to get my plan out. But it is very, very interesting.
It is very interesting. We see Palpad there, so we're going to shuffle. Is that 2 Peonias back into the deck?
Peonia and a Silene.
Right, that makes a bit more sense. Of course, James hasn't really been able to take a prize yet, as far as I recall. No, indeed not. So there's still, what is it, a Marnie, a Clara, a Roxanne, another Peonia, a Galarmine, and a Team Yelchia in the prizes right now. Scoop up that game played for another concealed card, discarding Speed Lightning.
And it's getting late early here. We can see there Alessandro's only got 2 prizes remaining to win this game. So James has got to get that Mewtwo out or do something else. Because unfortunately, it's a case of, let's say James goes to torment the Empoleon, retreat into Kyurem, attack. You bring something up with a Chinchou and Alessandro can just switch. Get the Morpeko out and maybe that Kyurem goes and gets a giant KO here. James is in an awkward position here because Alessandro is basically saying, look, whatever you've got here, I've kind of got an answer. And we see all game, it's just throwing energy around the field, making sure I've got everything I want set up. And it's been kind of a very patient game here.
Yeah, very, very much so. And you kind of have to have that patient game to play a deck like this. You know, this isn't the sort of deck that you can just go out all aggressive with and try to take quick prizes and win. No, this deck is specifically built around, as we've talked about before, grinding your opponent down in terms of their resources, slowing them down to the point where you can then come in with a big attacker and sweep the rest of the prizes that way.
Oh yes, but I mean Alessandro is playing a very patient game as well. We're not seeing big swings, we're seeing lots of Pokemon set up, spreading the energy round, trying to make sure, earlier we saw Alessandro considering putting a water energy onto Oranguru to try and make it less of a target to be brought up. Ironically enough, as I say that, it is indeed brought up using the Chinchou, and that is exactly what you suggested, but it looks like we've got ourselves, it is an air balloon, just double checking there.
Okay, yeah, so straight away that's kind of nullified that plan for James, unfortunately, and I mean, with this, Alessandro is going to take another prize, and then there's only one more prize needed to win the game. I mean, James has not been able to get to that point where, he can pick up all the stuff on his board and then bring up a Mewtwo and just sweep of it, but even if he did do that, the Kyurem just comes in and knocks out the Mewtwo anyway. This is just not a great matchup for James, no matter which way you look at it.
No, James is in such an awkward situation here. It's hard. I mean, one of the things I saw in the early game was obviously Marnie coming down.
Oh, wow,
here.
Okay.
Alessandro was, use that star portal to put free energy onto Empoleon. And I'm thinking, well, hang on a second, you know, surely that's good in the late game to put that free energy on Kyurem and go for a giant swing against Mewtwo. But like I was saying, Alessandro is playing very patiently here, going, look, I can get the energy on Kyurem later. Right now, I want to turn off Gormandize and I want to get a couple of cheeky prizes. And that Empoleon has been putting in a shift.
Yes, it really has. So another attack going in, KOing the Chinchou, and actually going to the Lost Zone, of course, because the Lost City was just put into play. So that's going to be more Pico going into the active, and I don't see how James prevents a knockout from happening this turn, really.
No, because essentially you can torment the Empoleon, and then the Empoleon can't use its attack, so you just retreat and attack with Kyurem.
Yeah, so Trekking Shoes, discarding a Silene, finding another Trekking Shoes, which gets played again, discard a Psychic Energy, draw a card, but what's James even trying to find here?
I honestly don't know. The Mewtwo, it does not look like it's going to be coming out at this stage. I mean, there is a Peonia, so James is still going here. That Kyurem is right on the edge of being able to get a KO on the Mewtwo, even if the Mewtwo does come out. So there's just so many, and it does look like James has decided, you know what, this isn't happening. So James does concede, and Alessandro takes a 1-0 win. And you've got to think, you know, James, very accomplished player, top 4 of the World Championships. How do you find your way out of this in what looks to be a pretty unfavorable matchup?
It's tough, right? I think he was doing the best he can. I think he was trying to sort of accommodate the fact that Mewtwo Union could be one-hit KO'd by just, you know, finding alternative ways to disrupt Alessandro just by, you know, maybe using more Pico or using by Chinchou, you know, gusting up certain things with the Chinchou's attack. But not really. Alessandro never really gave a chance for that disruption to be successful. He managed to get all of his energy onto the field. Empoleon was spreading more energy around to make sure that nothing on the bench could be brought up. There was just really too much for James to try and disrupt to begin with.
No, unfortunately, it just, you know, if James had got some of those tricks going a bit earlier, maybe an earlier Chinchou, maybe an earlier Torment, it's just, the problem is Alessandro's deck seems to have so many options. Getting stranded in the active doesn't work so well when you're playing around with so much energy. Walling with Mewtwo doesn't work when you're playing around with so much energy. And that's the problem I'm finding with James in this matchup against Alessandro. Alessandro is just, there's a lot going on that Alessandro knows a lot about how to fix it. And that's, you've got to be feeling confident if you're Alessandro going into this second game.
Yeah, you really, really do. Especially now as the James actually end up with a mulligan. So going to give Alessandro an extra card to work with. Although James will be going first in this instance. So maybe he can, you know, get a very good setup turn 1 and then just Gormandize for a bunch of cards. That would be the ideal sort of turn 1 for him.
Yeah, that is absolutely, yeah. I mean, we saw the Ultra Ball getting rid of 2 Mewtwo pieces at the beginning of game 1. That is about as best you can possibly get. And, but
absolutely.
Not getting that Snorlax into the active and then whiffing a couple other things, and it all just kind of fell apart as the game wore on, unfortunately.
Yeah, it really did. So, and now another mulligan from James as well. So, still no luck finding a basic here. It's not as if, I mean, James does play a fair few basics in the deck as well, where we've got 4 Snorlax potentially, and then like a bunch of other one-off techs. So, yeah.
We've got 10 basics and then 4 Mewtwo.
Yeah, so, I mean, obviously it can happen, but not really ideal to happen when you're already a game down, of course.
No, giving your opponent just extra resources to start. Because we know what Alessandro is going to do. It's going to be, I'm going to set up a Palkia for the early game. Might even go for Empoleon, because we saw how good Empoleon was at shutting down that Gormandize. And I'm going to have a Kyurem with free energy that's basically going to sit on the bench all game with free energy, because I know that actually, you know what? All I'm going to need to do is that, and then, oh no, Mewtwo v Union goes down. And that's a big problem, because Kyurem's also got a huge amount of HP. I mean, Mewtwo v Union's 310 HP. That means Kyurem needs 4 energy to get a KO. Incidentally, that's why the Kyurem sat there all game with free energy attached, because Alessandro knew if that Mewtwo ever comes up, I attach a 4th energy and I KO.
Yes, absolutely. Now, James going first here. Not with the best of starts in the world. Looks like there's going to be a Miltank there in the active, but has an Ultra Ball in hand to get something else. So we'll do that post haste. Probably going to want to get Snorlax down as soon as possible. If you can find it. We're also going to have a look through the deck, of course, as a lot of the top players do, just to see what's available. Actually, no, going for the Chinchou straight away, interestingly enough.
If your opponent's got something on the bench you really want to bring active that's got a decent retreat cost, I like this.
Yeah.
James wants to buy time, and this is a great way to buy time. So, yeah, go for it. It's a kind of card that so many people overlook, so many people just don't get. And then actually, it turns out to be a really, really, useful card in a bunch of matchups. James had a lot of options for basic Pokemon there. Chinchou's what he went for. Does have a Snorlax already in hand, though.
Yes, he does. So there with going to be able to go for the Gormandize if he has a way to switch out the Miltank, which, oh, yeah, maybe not then. So actually it's going to go over to Alessandro in that case, and we're going to start off with a Rotom Phone. So a card, of course, that makes a lot of sense in Kyurem. It does enable you to dig 5 into the top of your deck, and any card that you find there, you can choose to put to the top and shuffle the rest back in. So if you find a Water Energy, then Glaciated World is instantly live.
Yeah, that's not bad. Glaceon, Kyurem loves to glaciate, and absolutely getting those energy either from Oranguru or from the Rotom Phone is brilliant.
Yes.
We do see a Radiant Greninja, discards an energy, gets a couple of cards, and it's a turn 1 battle VIP pass.
Oh, wonderful.
Any 2 basics, you gotta love it.
Yes, so it's the ideal turn 1 start as ever. We said it many, many times before. We will say it again, and I'm actually not sure how many Alessandro plays in this list. I don't think we quite looked. It is only the 1, actually, so he found his one of Battle VIP pass in this instance. He's got to be pretty chuffed about that.
Yeah, it was a choice to see a lot of players play. You play the 4 Irida, and then you just play 1 Battle VIP pass. If you're going first, you're probably not going to see it. If you're going second, you're probably going to try an Irida, so then that will get you the Battle VIP pass.
Exactly.
That's why you would only play 1. Finding it naturally, it's going to happen very occasionally, and on those games, it's going to feel good.
Yes, it really is. So, and seeing how effective it was in Game 1, going straight for that Empoleon, knowing how disruptive it was and how it was able to really put a number on, or do a dent rather, on the large amount of non-rule box Pokemon with abilities that James has in his deck.
Yeah, that is always annoying. Now, and I do love Empoleon. It's such a lovely Pokemon. So we do see a deck search going on here. I didn't quite see the card that was played, unfortunately.
Do you believe it was a Quick Ball?
Quick Ball would be nice. That means you get to go and get a basic Pokemon. Looks like it is. We've got an Oranguru, and we've talked about this combo. This combo with Kyurem is amazing. Water Energy in hand. You put it on top of your deck with Oranguru, use Kyurem's ability. Oh, look, I hit a Water Energy. Yay!
Woo.
And then you attach it, and you're good to go. And between between that ability, between Melanie and your V-Star power on your Palkia, you really are in a position here where you are accelerating a lot of energy, and that is huge.
That's absolutely huge. And Escape Rope coming in as well to just get that opponent into the active straight away. Not going to be able to take a KO this turn, unfortunately, but, you know, that's it's turn 1. It's very early days. It looks like the Oranguru ability coming in, and then it's just going to be a Marnie straight away after that.
Yeah, I like this. Remember, Marnie puts the cards to the bottom of your deck, not the top. So this is basically saying, look, there's 1 card in my hand that I actually want to have for the rest of, for the very near future. Whack it on top of my deck with Oranguru, play the Marnie, and I know I'm going to draw that card back, so I love that. We see an energy on the Empoleon. It's not enough to attack, but it's a decent start. And we see a pass. So Alessandro, as far as turn 1s go, that ain't too bad. You've got the energy attachment, you've got the Kyurem, you've got the Palkia, you've got the Empoleon in the active, crucially. Although that Chinchou's probably going to have something to say about that.
Yes, it probably will indeed. Pyukumuku comes in straight away. That's honestly probably one of my favorite cards in the format. Not one I'm playing currently, but when I was playing Ice Rider Palkia, it was like an absolute go-to. Just that one little extra dig draw can always come in handy a lot. But it looks like in this instance, James didn't really find much from it and just kind of had to pass afterwards, unfortunately.
Yeah, we're not seeing those Gormandize Snorlaxes, which is what James really wants to do. And it's worth pointing out, there's only 20 minutes left. This Mewtwo does not play quick games. It plays very slow games. And that's huge. James, it is very, very unlikely at this stage that James wins this matchup. I know we're 20 minutes away. It is very unlikely. The way Mewtwo generally wins is winning a long game 1, game 2 doesn't finish, 1-0 victory. I'm not saying that's the way it always goes, but I'm saying that's Mewtwo's general MO.
Yes.
If you lose game 1 as James has, the chances of winning a match, a best of 3, are incredibly slim. So Alessandro here is really trying to get this and get a draw. Of course, we know that 6-2-1 is going to be enough to get you into day 2.
Yes.
So actually, if James goes to 5-0-1 here, then James has got that draw, and there's kind of What are we going to be there? 3 winning ins in a row?
Yeah, so, and odds are he's going to win at least one of them, right?
You would like, starting 5, I mean, there's no guarantee of day 2 when you start 5-0, but you'd like to think if you won 5 out of 5, you could win 1 out of 3.
Yes, you would like to think that. So, Capacious Bucket from Alessandro's side, going to grab 2 Water Energies. Also, we saw there from the Irida, that was where the Capacious Bucket came from, and that Irida also did grab a Kyurem V Max, so Alessandro's got that ready to go as well. Probably going to try and do the same thing as first game, load that up with enough energy so that when, or if and when the Mewtwo V Union comes, it can just be easily KO'd. So makes a lot of sense from the way I see it. There goes the Oranguru ability again, and now evolving into the Kyurem V Max, and I imagine going for a Glaciated World, you'd think?
It depends what we've got in terms of kind of cards. It is interesting to note Glaciated World does discard the top card of your deck. So if you don't know it's a water energy, we do hit one there. If you don't know that it's a water energy, it can be extremely risky. You could end up discarding a card you want later on in the game.
Yes.
But hit it there quite nicely. And essentially, we're going to see Alessandro doing Alessandro things here.
Yes.
It's going to be free energy on the bench Kyurem, trying to take little prizes. And honestly, there's a decent chance we don't get to the end of this game. James is trying to frustrate Alessandro and run him out of resources. It's going to be hard to do that in the 18 minutes remaining.
Yeah, this is, as we mentioned already, not a deck that wins quickly, right? So James is evidently trying to play as fast as he can, but just by the very nature how this deck works, it probably isn't going to be enough.
No, unfortunately not. It's at this stage, it's largely just don't lose this game.
Yes.
But also, there's a little bit of confidence kind of involved here. Even if you win the second game, you need to win it quite quickly. You don't want to end up taking your loss here. That kind of, it can dent your confidence, and you're going into these crucial rounds. And the thing is, when you end up at 5-0, 5-1, etc., you are playing against good players,
yes.
who are having good. You know, every good player has a bad day, but you're having a good day if you're sitting there at 5-0, 5-1. So stacking those wins where you can get them becomes really important.
Yeah, and I guess it's safe to say in this instance we will probably not be seeing this match going to a game 3 for the first time this whole stream.
Really? Have we not seen any finish in 2 games?
I think Benji and I were talking about that. Unless certainly the ones I've been on stream. I don't know if you recall any of them.
I can't recall any of the ones I've been on with Benji finishing in 2 games.
Well, there you go.
We've been very, very blessed this stream so far. We've had some good games on stream. I mean, obviously, you know, I am well aware that Mewtwo V Union is a deck which is a bit slower, but it still creates a fascinating game state. We got to have a conversation about Chinchou on the stream in round 6 of a regional championship.
Yes.
That's not something I thought we'd get, Freya. I'm going to be honest with you.
I think it's safe to say that I would have never thought that either. I think it's probably even safe to say it's not a card I knew existed until now.
I mean, I read it when it came out, but that was a while ago. Now, the Morpeko was on my radar. Morpeko has been seen playing in these Mewtwo V Union decks for a little while now. It's a card from, I think, from Rebel Clash that was, you know, again, a card that was completely ignored until we found its niche. Now, Alessandro's had a slow start, still not taken any prizes here. But and it looks like, as I say that, are we seeing Star Portal?
Yes.
And we get 1 on the Empoleon, and we get 1 on the Kyurem, and 1 on the... I love that.
Yeah, again, spreading the energy around. Yes, that's exactly what you want to be doing. You don't want to risk any Pokemon getting easily stalled in the active, and that's exactly what Alessandro is preventing here.
I'm just thinking attacking-wise, right? Empoleon is now attacking. Palkia is 1 energy away from attacking. And honestly, Kyurem, you've got time to worry about it later. Of course, when Empoleon attacks, you do have to move an energy to a bench Pokemon. And oh, look, now Kyurem's 1 energy away from attacking, and Palkia's 1 energy away from attacking, and Empoleon's 1 energy away from attacking. And we've seen this from players all day on stream today. You don't necessarily have to have the energy all on 1 Pokemon, which is then at risk of getting KO'd.
No.
Sometimes it's beautiful to just get all your Pokemon 1 energy away and just give yourself options. So Silene does come down there. Was that 2 flips or 1?
Oh, no, it was a Crushing Hammer.
Oh, the Crushing Hammer.
Yes.
Oh, that was a head. That's not good.
Nope. Alessandro definitely did not want to see that. Discarding that energy that was moved from the Empoleon to the Palkia as well. So only 1 energy on the Palkia now, which also does not bode well. And James following that up with Amani just to really try and disrupt Alessandro here.
Yeah, I like this from James. It's everything you can do. And it is going to have to be a little bit of disruption. Buy your time, get that Mewtwo. But I'm really worried, even if James gets the Mewtwo, Kyurem can one-hit KO it. And the thing is, I don't think Mewtwo one-hit KOs Kyurem. It's 330 HP, that's a lot, you know. I'm not saying Mewtwo V Union doesn't have any good damaging attacks, but I am saying it does 300, so you would have to then get a choice belt. So now I suppose we need to look. Is there a choice belt in the deck? I'm not seeing one.
No. So not only does Kyurem VMAX easily one-shot Mewtwo V Union, but Mewtwo V Union also cannot one-shot Kyurem VMAX.
Well, you kind of, I suppose you're relying on confusion. You're hoping it flips Tails on confusion. And then after one confusion Tails, it is then in range of Mewtwo.
Yeah.
Don't know how I forgot that for a second. But that's kind of, and that's why I don't like this matchup for James, because actually you're kind of relying on a confusion flip Tails to put your opponent in range. And generally speaking, if your opponent can get a one-hit KO on you, but you can't get a one-hit KO on them, that is not an ideal scenario. Now, yeah, Alessandro here, we've got the Oranguru in the active from Chinchou, and oh look, we've got another choice, another air balloon, and a training court coming in as well. Great for getting that energy out the discard.
Yeah, so the training court is almost like a bane of these sort of energy disruption decks, because if you don't have a counter stadium for it, then your opponent can just keep getting energy back and back, and you can discard as much as you want, but it doesn't matter because they can just keep getting recycled.
Yeah, discarding energy is a lot less fun when your opponent just gets it right back. And in a lot of decks, reattaching it is a pain. Here, okay, fine, you're not having multiple attachments from turn unless you use Kyurem V's attack, but you are still able to get them back into the deck and use all those abilities, and it's working very well. Alessandro is now 2 prizes up, and James, we're seeing kind of in the first game, James doesn't really have much going on. Like, we've not really seen anything going on from James really at any point in this matchup. It's been little bit of this, little bit of that, trying to disrupt, trying to slow down, and Alessandro just switching out or retreating, taking KOs, and I am in love with the way Alessandro is playing this game, because this is an awkward matchup, and Alessandro is just going, right, here are the Pokemon I need, let's spread the energy around, and crucially not overextending, letting the game come to him. It took a bit longer to take prizes this second game, but you cannot overextend, because that is exactly what James wants you to do.
Yes. Also, minor, I guess, ruling point here. So we saw like a little bit of a moment there where there was a discussion where Alessandro was wondering if James could use the Pyukumuku, for the Pitcher Pyukumuku ability, when the Empoleon is in the active. The Empoleon only affects Pokemon in play. Given that the Pyukumuku's in hand, that's not in play yet, so yes, you can use the ability when the Empoleon is active if Pyukumuku's in your hand.
A little bit annoying, frankly, because that would be a nice bonus of playing. And Pyukumuku is not exactly the number 1 card in the format right now, but it is a relevant card, especially in these Mewtwo V Union decks. Now we see that third energy on Empoleon from a Melanie. We're drawing 3 cards from the Melanie. Now, we did see a Torment last turn from Morpeko, so it's not going to be quite as easy for Empoleon to just take the KO here, because the attack you would use isn't there anymore.
Yeah, and of course that's not an ideal position to be in at all, especially when you're a Pokemon that only really has 1 attack. So, you know, that's just kind of, that's exactly the strength of cards like Morpeko with those kinds of Torment attacks.
Yeah, you're basically saying to your opponent, you've only got 1 attack on your Pokemon, and I'm willing to bet you're not going to have enough switching cards. And if you start switching, that's when cards like Chinchou become way better, because then you can try and strand Pokemon in the active. And if you can strand Pokemon in the active enough, you will win the game. James's deck is built for those long games.
Yes.
Now, with 10 minutes remaining here, and Alessandro has taken 2 prizes. James, we've got a Miltank out. I don't mind Miltank as an attacker in this matchup, because actually there are a lot of Pokemon Vs on Alessandro's side of the board, but the problem is Empoleon will run right through it, so Empoleon's a pretty good Miltank counter.
Yes, very much so. Of course, Miltank being as well, you know, a non-rulebox Pokemon. Oh, a little bit of a misstep from Alessandro here. That Galar Mine's in play, and that means that the Oranguru has a 4 retreat cost, not a 2 retreat cost, so like the cross-switcher play did not work. Oh
no,
dear.
Trying to cross-switch the Oranguru into the active and then retreat for more for the Empoleon. Missed the Galamine there. It's very, very easily done. And, you know, we were all around in the days of Floatstone that gave you free retreat. Air Balloon ain't no Floatstone.
No, no.
Air Balloon is reduced by 2.
Yes.
So essentially Galamine and Air Balloon just cancel each other out.
Exactly.
And Oranguru has to actually have energy to retreat. And this is the point. This is kind of what James is relying on. James's deck, I think it could be rightly described as stressful. You are trying to frustrate your opponent. You're trying to drag games out. You are trying to get them to make a mistake by putting them in constant awkward situations. This isn't some fluke. This is what James's deck does.
Yeah, and it's what it does, and it's what it's showing itself to do right here. So now Alessandro in a very awkward position as he goes for the Oranguru ability again, but trying to find something, but still, does he even have a way to retreat this Oranguru now? I'm honestly not sure if he does.
You would need a Melanie and an attachment for turn if a supporter card hasn't already been played.
But you can't Melanie to a colorless Pokemon.
Oh, you can't, and you can't Melanie to a non-V either.
Yeah, wait.
You can Melanie to a colorless,
yeah,
you
sorry,
can't Melanie to a non-V.
Yeah, sorry, that's what I meant, yes.
But either way, you can't Melanie to an Oranguru.
No.
Oh, I try doing that way too often. It never works, incidentally. So that Oranguru's kind of stuck there for a while, and like I say, yes, okay, Alessandro played the cross-switcher into this, but make no mistake about it, this is what James wants. This is the exact situation James wants his opponent in. We now see a Silene. We do see a head. Goes and grabs.
So quick I didn't even see.
It looked like an Ultra Ball. There was an Ultra Ball went on top of the deck there.
Yeah, James knows that the clock's up against him. He's playing about as fast as has ever seen any control player play, and that is very evident to see right now.
Yeah, it's got to be. It's got to be. If you don't do that, you ain't going to win the game.
No.
So James here is just kind of celebrating a little bit. Things seem to finally be going his way. And, that Galamine is absolutely putting in a little bit of a shift. If Alessandro were able to find a counter stadium, that'd be pretty cool right now.
It's what he needs, but, like, I don't think he plays too many. 2 Lost City and 1 Trading Court. Okay, so you've got to think there's got to be 1 left in the deck at least. We have seen the Trading Court go already, so it's got to be 1.
We've seen at least 1 Lost City, I'm sure we have.
So 1 Lost City maybe left in the deck.
I'm not sure. I might have seen them both in the discard.
No.
I don't think there's more than 1. Again, we did not get a good look at the discard there.
No.
But if it looks like Alessandro is failing to find a counter stadium, there's a reason. Alessandro is running out of, or may even have run out of stadiums, and that's not a good thing.
No.
So James is going to try and take advantage of this, but we're still talking 7 minutes left, and James has got to try and win the game.
And that is the other thing as well. Alessandro at this point, I mean, it might be that his win condition is just to outlast James somehow. James is playing as fast as he can because he wants to, he needs to if he wants to win this and pull a tie out of a loss. But Alessandro could absolutely just about maybe squeeze it enough to keep this 1-0 victory if he plays well.
And that's the difference between these 2 decks. James, if James had won, hey, we're seeing Mewtwo.
Yes,
We're finally seeing Mewtwo v Union. Had James won game 1, this would be looking so good right now. But now it's over to Mewtwo. We've got the Mewtwo, and we're getting a whole bunch of energy on there. And now it's over to Alessandro, and now it's really down to the question of, can this Mewtwo do its thing? Can it outlast? Now, have we seen Star Portal yet this game? I believe we have.
It's hard to, I can't quite see. Is that the card at the top of V-Star marker? I actually can't tell if it's been flipped or not.
I believe that's the V-Star marker, but I don't know if it's been flipped or not.
Yes. And there is the Lost City in the deck. Okay, so there is 1 counter stadium left in deck that Alessandro really needs to find ASAP.
Yeah, if there's a way to get 4 energy on Kyurem and a counter stadium, this game is basically over. That is a very, very big if.
Yes. And it's exactly the if that Alessandro needs to meet, and looks like that particular Oranguru fire off did not go to plan, although putting the water energy on top.
Yeah, that went very well. Getting the energy glaciated world is working nicely. Now we've got an attachment for turn, but it's not enough. Oh, a Melanie there could have done it, but unfortunately just not enough there, and we don't have the counter stadium. So James needs to try and take out that Kyurem, but Mewtwo only does 300. Kyurem's got 330. And there's no choice belt in the deck, which is a big problem potentially. It's not the kind of thing you expect to need in Mewtwo decks. but unfortunately it's yeah, it's not in there. So Yellhorn, Crushing Hammer, it's down to basically just trying to frustrate Kyurem. I mean, if Alessandro get an energy in a counter stadium next turn, that would be fantastic.
Yes, and I'm sure that is exactly, well, obviously that is what Alessandro will want to go for, but it's a little bit out of his control, right? I think that's the bigger problem here, because there aren't that many cards left in the deck, but also Alessandro doesn't have that many ways to draw. You can maybe, he'll have a draw for turn, you can maybe try and go for, another Oranguru play to try and find it, but he has to make sure that he doesn't get it too late to the point where when he has it, he runs out of cards and loses anyway.
Yeah, you could use concealed cards, but there's only so much energy in your deck at this point in the game, and you need that onto Kyurem. So it's absolutely, it's still probably in Alessandro's favor, I would think, at this stage. But James is looking pretty nice, doing what it's supposed to do, and I think we're going to see. I mean, James's deck is getting very, very thin here. By design, that is what Mewtwo tries to do. And it looks like we're going to see, hopefully, a Roxanne play, trying to get back into that, trying to make sure that his opponent goes down to a very small hand size, and essentially going, look, you don't have the cards to move Oranguru out the active because you don't have many cards in your hand.
No. So it looks like it's going to be, I can't remember, it's the 160 damage spread attack with the Mewtwo V-Union, I believe it's called. Is it Psy-Splosion? Yeah, so Psy-Splosion from the Mewtwo, going to put 16 damage counters on Alessandro's side of the field, including, it looks like, is that all on the Empoleon? Maybe.
Yeah, it all did go on the Empoleon, yep. I thought there were 4 on the Empoleon from earlier, and now there's 18.
Oh, I think the Lost City is actually in hand. Yes, Alessandro did find it.
This is absolutely huge. James has got the win condition here, spreading damage with Mewtwo. If he can keep that Oranguru in the active for a couple of turns, he can just spread enough damage to take 6 prizes without ever having Oranguru leave the active. Unfortunately, that last Lost City does come down here. Does Alessandro have the energy needed? As it stands at the moment,
surely.
I mean, you can always try a blind glaciate if you want to. That is awkward, but it is a possibility. You're doing 120 base. You can discard any number of water energy from Kyurem itself. 50 more for each energy discarded. If you just, it looks
Empoleon.
Yeah, I don't mind this because you kind of either, if Mewtwo heals itself, then you can. Oh no, it's happening again! We've got Galamine and Boss's Orders, and here's the problem. We're fairly sure Alessandro has no counter stadium. And now, can James win? It's really, really tight. James cannot KO the Kyurem, so what he's doing here is trying to strand something in the active and just spread damage around Alessandro's field. He is not going to KO that Oranguru.
No.
It's KO the bench Pokemon and win.
Yes, and
he's running out of time, though. There's not much time left.
Yeah. There is also maybe the potential of James just running Alessandro out of cards. I don't know how thin the deck is, although Alessandro is also helping that a bit by doing the Glaciated World, so maybe just trying to panic dig for another switch out. Like I said, we don't quite know if there's any left in the deck.
I don't think there's any stadiums left in the deck. I'm fairly sure he plays 3, and I'm sure they've all gone. In terms of switches, I'm not. Are there any switches in the deck? There's 1 air balloon with 1 escape rope.
Yeah, that's it. And I'm fairly sure the escape rope has already been and gone.
Oh, however, we've got ourselves a Lost Vacuum.
Oh.
A one-of. There is 1 Lost Vacuum in Alessandro's deck. And here we see the energy and the KO on the Mewtwo. It's...
And James just concedes from that. He can't win.
Yeah, James concedes. I'm like, why is he taking 4 prizes? Doesn't matter. James does concede. Alessandro takes the match 2 games to 0. Oh, a one-of Lost Vacuum in a Palkia deck. That is the difference in the end.
Wow, and Alessandro takes the first 2-0 win of the stream against James Cox, who, again, is one of the most recent top 8 finishers at the most recent World Championships. And, yeah, what an absolutely insanely impressive win.
Not top 8, top 4.
You're right, of course.
Top 4 is a very big deal. One more apologies, James, for forgetting that. That's easily done. My point is, that was a really well-played game, and I love the way James played that second game. James is a phenomenal player. He knows that's a bad matchup. He knows that Kyurem is going to be a problem. So we saw, in the game 2 especially, patience, 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 patience. Hey, what if I strand your Oranguru in the active and then start dropping 16 damage counters around the field? How about that? Maybe that will win. Didn't work out in the end, unfortunately. That one-off lost vacuum was absolutely the difference. But it was a really good play. It was the best James could manage. And although James didn't end up winning that game, it was still one of those situations where he played as well as he possibly could, put himself in the best possible position. And Alessandro, at the end of the day, we knew it from the beginning of the game. It was always going to come down to, when that Mewtwo comes out, can Kyurem take a KO? And unfortunately, the answer was yes.
Yes, and just enough with, like we saw at the end, the lost vacuum, the one out left over to get rid of the Galar Mine, to be able to retreat the Oranguru one more time and to attack with Kyurem and take the game.
Yeah, we're talking in total 3 stadiums, 1 escape rope, 1 lost vacuum. That's the entirety of the cards that Alessandro had in his deck as a possible counter to Galar Mine. That is not a lot, especially when your opponent is potentially using Chin Chow, trying to use those Galar Mines, ways to recover it. It's really going all out to make sure that you are in a bad position. And I think Alessandro played that game wonderfully. I love in both games that game 2, it took a while to take the first prize.
Yes.
And the reason was Alessandro was refusing to overextend and rush. I know my opponent's going to be slow, so you know what? I'm going to be slow, and I'm going to set up my board, and it's going to go wonderfully. Speaking of which, it looks like we've got Alessandro ready for a nice little interview. So we're going to be back in just a few seconds chatting with our match winner. Hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ross Gilbert and I'm here with Alessandro Frenda, who just won a very long best of 3 that was, it felt tense sitting up here.
Yeah.
Did it feel tense at the table?
Yeah, I was like shaking all the body because the matchup seems to be easy, because Kyurem VMAX does a lot of damage and Mewtwo V Union does not have enough healing to repair to it. But the way he was playing to Gust always the back Pokemon with Galar Mine was pretty scary actually.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, game 1 was super interesting. The whole game, you've got Kyurem VMAX on the bench with free energy.
Exactly.
Just kind of daring games. Like, if it ever comes down, I've got that 4th energy.
Yeah, that was my plan.
And one thing I noticed, you were playing kind of slowly in that game. Do you approach this matchup in a slower, more considered manner?
No, the thing is, I was trying to playing relaxed, to manage all the resources without wasting anything, because this kind of matchups, when you have a control deck against you, you want to control your own and manage your own resources. Otherwise, if you only lose one resource that you need, like a switch or a balloon or something like that, it's done.
Yeah, and that was really evident. That's what we were saying up here on the stream, that you were being super careful, spreading your energy around, not using any resources you didn't have to. And, in game 2, it took a while for you to get going and start taking prizes because, again, I'm assuming it's just keep your resources because James's deck is really annoying.
Yeah. Actually, game 1, I started with 2 of the 3 ways that I had to switch in the hand with the research. But so I didn't want to discard anything because I need those resources. And that's why I had to go slow and keep them in my hand and play Marnie. And yeah, that was a little bit slower than game 1, of course.
And I mean, you won in the end of game 2. We were trying to look at your deck list while commentating, trying to see. And it turned out you had that 1 copy of Lost Vacuum. That was your last out in the deck.
Yeah.
Why'd you play 1 copy of Lost Vacuum?
Because I played 3 stadiums. I played 3 stadiums and 1 copy of the Vacuum. But in the deck, I still had 1 Irida and 1 Melanie. So I could draw it anyway. Any card I drew in the last 3 was the way to win for me.
Oh, so you either had the win condition or a way to get the win condition.
Exactly, yeah.
So why Palkia with Kyurem? You're sitting at, I think, 501 now?
Yeah.
Very good record. Why did you choose this deck?
I was, okay, I wanted to play a deck between Kyurem and Giratina because I believe these are the two decks that in this moment, in this meta, could play with everything else. I mean, they do not have any, like, the worst matchup. They do not have the best matchup. They can play against everything. So that's why I chose one of the two, and Kyurem was the best one for me.
I mean, it seems to be working out for you right now. Are there any decks in the field you don't want to face? Anything you're scared of?
Maybe Mew, because I'm not playing Drapion at the moment, so maybe that one is the scariest one, because they're very fast.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of Mew absolutely popping off so far. Now, in terms of regionals, you're not a name we've seen on stream very often. Are there any accomplishments you've had in the past you'd like to share with us? Kind of let us get to know you a bit better?
Oh, I believe that, no, actually, the only thing I want to share with you, if I can do it, is like this. My team that we just started, and this is the tournament that we actually announced ourselves, and we're very happy about it.
I mean, I'm going to say this. If you were planning to announce yourself at a regional championship, starting off at 5-0-1 and winning a really exciting game on stream, that's a good way to announce yourself to the Pokemon community.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Sam.
Well, congratulations. That was an awesome
much.
win, and good luck for the rest of the tournament.
Thank you very much. Soup.
And you guys don't go anywhere because we're going to be back. Grab yourselves a nice cold beverage. We have still got a lot more Pokemon action to come.